I've seen way too many people rush out the door with a cheap robot vacuum that promises hands-free cleaning, and then end up dragging a half-empty bin back to the kitchen, fighting tangled brush rolls, or watching a mop streak across the floor because the water never really got to the dirt. The regret is real, especially when you've already spent a couple of months battling dust bunnies and sticky spills. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The question I keep hearing is whether a higher-priced model like the ECOVACS DEEBOT X8 PRO OMNI actually saves you from that disappointment or just adds a fancier price tag. What makes this robot different from the budget-range bots you see on TV is the whole 12-in-1 station it ships with. It's not just a vacuum that picks up crumbs. It's a self-washing mop, a hot water sprayer, a self-emptying dustbin, and even a dryer for the mop cloth, all tucked into a single base that you set up once and then largely forget about. In the real world, that matters when you have a busy household with kids, pets, and a schedule that doesn't allow you to stop and swap out a water tank every 1,015 minutes. The X8's 18,000 Pascal suction is strong enough to pull up cereal that's been rolled under the couch, while the OZMO roller delivers a wet mop pass that actually dissolves a spilled juice puddle instead of just pushing it around. I tried it in a 2-bedroom apartment with hardwood floors, a low-pile rug in the living room, and a kitchen that sees a lot of cooking messes. The first thing I noticed was how quickly the robot mapped the space. Using the embedded LiDAR, it created a precise floor plan in a matter of minutes, which meant it could navigate around furniture without constantly bumping into legs. That's a subtle but huge win for anyone who's tired of watching a robot get stuck under a coffee table and then having to rescue it every few minutes. The side brush and the extended OZMO roller also reach right up to the baseboards, which is where a lot of dust tends to settle. In my case, the baseboard cleaning was noticeably better than the cheap models that only focus on the center of the room. The mop system is where the X8 tries to justify its price. Instead of a static water tank, the OMNI Station holds a refillable water reservoir that heats the water to around 70 C before it's sprayed onto the mop pad. The hot water helps break down grease on the kitchen tiles, and the built-in dryer means the mop pad isn't dripping wet when the robot finishes. In practice, after a dinner of spaghetti sauce, the robot ran a mop cycle and left the floor noticeably less sticky than a dry sweep would have. The self-washing feature also rinses the pad automatically, so you don't have to pull the robot off the dock, take the pad out, and hand wash it. That convenience is a genuine time saver if you have a routine where you run the robot daily. Of course, no robot is perfect, and the X8 has a few trade-offs that are worth flagging before you decide to hit buy. The first is the size of the water tank. While the station holds enough for several mop passes, it still requires a refill after a full apartment clean if you have a lot of wet messes. If you live in a larger house or have a kitchen that frequently sees spills, you might find yourself refilling the tank mid-run. The second issue is noise. The 18,000 Pascal suction is powerful, but it can be louder than a mid-range vacuum, especially on hard floors. If you work from home or have a baby nap schedule, the robot's noise level might be a factor you need to weigh. Battery life is another practical point. On a mixed surface run that includes both vacuuming and mopping, the X8 manages roughly 90 minutes before it heads back to the OMNI Station. That's enough for a standard apartment. But if you have a sprawling 2-story home, you'll likely need to let it dock and recharge before it finishes the entire floor plan. The good news is that the robot automatically resumes where it left off after a charge, so you don't have to start over each time. Who should consider the DEEBOT X8 PRO OMNI? If you're a busy professional, a parent juggling school runs, or a pet owner who constantly battles fur and occasional accidents, the hands-free, all-in-one approach can truly free up mental bandwidth. The smart home compatibility is also a nice touch. You can trigger cleaning with a voice command through Alexa, Google Assistant, or any Matter-compatible hub, and you can set up schedules from the app without ever opening the dock. That level of integration is something you'll appreciate if you already have a connected home ecosystem. On the flip side, the X8 is probably overkill for someone who lives alone in a studio, has a limited budget, or is comfortable manually sweeping and mopping a small space a couple of times a week. In those cases, a simpler robot that only vacuums or a basic